of Renault trying to get Carlos Sainz for the 2017 season, and also goes in with the news that they're trying to get James Allison back to bridge the gap to everyone. Even despite them saying that they were going to try to, take 5 years to get up to the midfield? To the front of the field? I guess
they said it was a 3-year plan. I said it was going to be a 3-year plan to try and get back to the front, basically.
I guess they're just trying to cut down on time. They ran out of patience. They're basically millennials now.
They are filthy, filthy millennials, yes.
Or snake people, as I like to call them, because I don't usually like the word millennial. But yeah.
That's an improvement to you, Matt, yes?
Yeah. To me it is, because I am one. But yeah, in like you said in the middle of the report of the Canada, it is an upgrade and a downgrade in both sides, because for Carlos Sainz, right now it's a downgrade because, of course, Toro Rosso is doing much, much better than Renault. Yeah, but for Renault, it's a much better than having Jolyon Palmer in there. I would think that Magnussen and Sainz Jr. are a lot more stronger lineup than having Palmer in there. I really still just think that Palmer got in there because of Jonathan's money.
Jonathan's money. You cynic. You had to go straight for the jugular on Jolyon Palmer. It's like, I said this on last week's show, that like, if you go back on our archives and go back to, I think it was episode 27, I want to say. It was 27, K-Mag and the Delta Wings. The avatar for that episode is like a poster. It's one of those old school like wrestling posters where it's like bounty hunter's attention, wanted, whipping boy and entertainment provider, and Pastor Maldonado's name's been crossed out, and the next name is, and the name right next to it is Jolyon Palmer, and it's just like, oh god, it really has happened now, hasn't it?
I actually even joked about him being a paid driver on my 2016 preseason preview. I name dropped all the circuits that Jonathan owns with MSV on the middle of his name.
Yep, like Jolyon, poor guy, had no hope here, and the poor guy has been put through the ringer already in his debut season, and not his fault this time around. Was a water pressure failure for the power unit in this case. Put him out in Canada, but he's not had a particularly good first season. I mean, losing it in a straight line at Monaco is not a good way to try and keep your job, especially when they've got Esteban Ocon just waited in the wings, ready to go. They've got Sergei Sorokin and Ollie Rowland potentially in their camp as well, as guys that could come in and fill the void on another occasion. But seemingly it's not good for Jolyon Palmer where that's concerned. I mean, Matt, what have you made of his season so far?
Yeah, not very impressive, but also it's really not so much his fault because Renault hasn't been all over that anyway. But despite K-Mag doing that master drive from 18th to 7th on Russia, around that.
Yeah, K-Mag had that drive. I mean, Palmer started well because he had that great 11th place in Australia. I was like, I was just short of the points. And a King's return, by the way. Nice to see you back, King. Nice to see you go quiet enough about telling us. You piss. But I mean, Palmer had that great rookie race in Australia. He finished 11th. He got a good couple of ding-dong fights with guys like Valtteri Bottas. Like, oh, okay. Palmer looks impressive here. Okay, good first race for him at Renault, and then it all just kind of gone to crap, eh, King?
Yeah, it kind of has gone to crap, and it's the rumor that Renault are interested in Carlos Sainz Jr. doesn't help him, especially when they have Esteban Ocon on loan from Mercedes, essentially, where while Ocon, he hasn't been doing as well as expected in DTM. There's 6 races in, and he's yet to score points yet. He's the reigning GP3 champion. The season before that, he was the European Formula 3 champion. Like, this kid is one of the more impressive guys out there.
Yeah, very much so. And Carlos Sainz has done an incredible job in that Toro Rosso team, especially given the amount of, for no better word, bullshit that's gone on around him in the last 2 seasons there, with Max Verstappen stealing a lot of his thunder when Carlos had, I think, just as good a season in his own right. But he was plagued with 7 mechanical breakdowns that season. It's 7 out of 19 is an awful run of mechanical retirements in the case of Carlos Sainz. And Verstappen obviously got the promoted deal ahead of Carlos when Kvyat kind of ran into the back of Vettel a couple of times for good measure. Carlos has just been the quiet soldier that's gone about his business ever since then, and I know a lot of people have badly wanted Verstappen to be a success because we in F1 are just so bloodthirsty for new stars. And I mean, King, it's a factory seat in Renault, and if Renault are willing to open their wallets to try and bridge the gap and break the bank, then that might be a good wagon to hit yourself onto in the long term, right?
Yeah, because it seems that Red Bull's a dead end, and I know during the pre-race build-up for the Canadian Grand Prix, Ted Kravitz asked Toro Rosso team principal Franz Tost if Carlos Sainz Jr. was a future world champion, and Franz Tost had like the most telling pause, just the hesitation to answer that question, and he basically replied saying that he had the ability to be a world champion, but he wasn't. But he needed the right car to get it done, and he wouldn't be able to do it at Toro Rosso. They would give him the best equipment they possibly could, but he would basically have to go somewhere else.
Hasn't that been the story of so many Toro Rosso drivers have passed? I mean, John-Eric Verne was very solid in his 4 years in F1, and Sebastian Bourdais, he said it himself, wrong place, wrong time. He was a great driver in that Toro Rosso camp, and again, the bricks just didn't fall for him in the case of that wall. And Sainz could be another victim. I feel like the way the team is calibrated with an 18-year-old Verstappen, and Daniel Ricciardo is obviously the big investment right now. He's basically their Vettel now, the guy they're going to build the team around, or if they can keep his talents, basically. I mean, given that situation, Carlos Sainz looks like he's in a dead end. That's the impression I get, Matt. I mean, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I remember seeing somewhere that Carlos Sainz's F1 career was pretty much dead after Verstappen got called up to Red Bull. So really, his only other option, if he really wants to be successful, apart from hoping that Ricciardo takes a Ferrari contract, is just to go back, take the seat. But I'm also still not sure if he really should, because I don't. Seeing Renault how they are now, they would have to make a really big leap to get as good as they want to be next year.
Right.
In the best of occasions, I see them being the upper midfield, maybe close to Williams or around Force India terms. But yeah, it would just be the same, more of the same for him. He wouldn't actually not a lot would change.
Like, the buzz around the paddock seems very high on Carlos Sainz Jr. Like, Fernando Alonso's manager, Luis Garcia Bad, like, of course, despite being a fellow, Spaniard, he said that recently he read an article that the performance between Sainz and Verstappen was very similar, and, like, the only difference between the two was that phone call from Red Bull where Verstappen got the promotion and Sainz didn't.
Yeah. It could easily be another Vernon Ricciardo situation where there was 1 point between them when they were together at Toro Rosso, but Ricciardo got the call and Verne was out of a job, essentially, and that's how brutal it was. That Ricciardo had this amazing breakout 2014 season, and that was John-Eric Verne's last year in F1. The nature of it all, the cruelty of the Red Bull Driver Academy continues, but we've talked about that on many occasions before already. But I'd like to see Carlos in that factory team. I think it's a team that will only get better in time, and if they can get James Allison back over, I mean, Allison makes a lot of sense. Obviously, he used to work for the team, and given the tragic passing of his wife earlier this year, maybe spending time back in the UK with his family might be enough of a pull factor to maybe make the jump back over. Just a thought. Just something to maybe what you guys may want to consider where that's concerned. But yeah, I'm excited. I'd like to see Carlos outside of that Red Bull umbrella, because I know he's never going to get the best run as long as he's in that team. So I'd like to see him get a chance somewhere else. So yeah, I'm all for that, quite frankly. So hopefully, as time goes on, we'll see how that develops. Next up,